Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast. We cover everything Major League, from spring training to the World Series. We've got your favorite club covered, from New York to Boston to LA. This is the Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast.
This is the GSMC Baseball Podcast here in the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Collin Manley. And hey, playoff baseball, it's here, folks. Man, it feels great. I don't know if I ever truly thought we were going to get to this point. I have to be honest with you guys, especially early on in this season. I mean, we had some question marks, some big time question marks. But I'm in a happy mood. You can't bring me down. You can't get to me today because the playoffs, they're here. We have so much we're going to talk about. I want to get to some playoff chatter. We're going to start things off with news and noise like we always do. Getting you caught up on a lot of injuries. There was some big roster moves because of injuries today, so we want to talk about that. I want to get talking about some playoff X factors. Guys on teams that are going to mean a great deal. If your team is going to make a run, these guys need to be a part of it. That's what I'm thinking. I got one for each team. We're going to talk about some end of season, regular season awards, because we still got to get that information out there, who I think is going to win a lot of these major awards. Some of those are going to be interesting debates. It feels like we have quite a few that are clear cut, but then we have some that are just loaded with a lot of worthy people to take them. And then I want to get some rookie talk in there as well. I got some future rookie ranks that I want to talk about. It was a great article on MLB.com. So I want to make sure to dive into that. But first things first, we're going to get started with some injury news. So some big things that happened with guys missing out on some playoff rosters, at least for these first 3-game series, okay? Some very, very interesting decisions. It looks like we're going to have some guys, at least for the first round. We'll see if their teams can push on through without them, making it later in the playoffs. But third baseman Josh Donaldson for the Minnesota Twins, he is going to miss the best of 3 AL first-round series against Houston, which is a big loss, especially considering at the time of this recording, Houston did take Game 1 of the series. He had a nagging injury to his right calf, and the team decided to include rookie Alex Kirilloff on the roster that was set on Tuesday before Game 1. Donaldson had missed 30 games this season with a muscle strain. He returned to the lineup on September 2nd, but was removed from Friday's game after the first inning with some cramping. Former MVP, he'd been working out with the team. It looked like he was progressing a little bit, but they saw something today that made them go, he's not going to be good to go, so we need to use this roster spot to be a little bit smarter when it comes with going forward. So definitely an offensive bat coming out of the lineup for the Twins. We'll see if that'll end up mattering or not going forward. Other roster news, well, the Blue Jays had to make a few decisions as well, as it looks like Rowdy Tellez is on for the Toronto Blue Jays roster against the Tampa Bay Rays, but Tanner Roark is going to be left off. The first baseman Tellez is on for the first-round series after recovering from a strained right knee that he has had bothering him since September 8th. Could be a designated hitter option for the Blue Jays in their best-of-3 series. We'll see if he gets some options there. There's also the interesting play of Alejandro Kirk, who's been a little bit of a hotter bat for the Blue Jays, so he might be taking some DH. So even with Tellez being on the roster, he might not get a lot of run. Definitely something to watch. Right-hander Jordan Romano was not included on the roster Tuesday as well. He's not pitched in a game since August 28th because of a finger injury, but through batting practice Sunday in hopes of earning a spot, ultimately decided to leave him off. And also Toronto had their left-hander Tanner Roark, who had a 6.80 ERA in 11 starts. He is left off as well. The Blue Jays ended up going with 13 pitchers, 3 catchers, 8 infielders, and 4 outfielders. Pitchers being a lot of their main starters, a couple guys in the bullpen. We'll see what ends up happening with them. They ended up going game one, starting things off with Matt Shoemaker, but he is only through 3 innings, I believe. I think they pulled him after 3 innings at the time of this recording. We'll see. They're kind of going with a committee in the first game, it looks like, and then hand the ball off to Hyunjin Ryu for game two. See what happens there. Definitely something worth monitoring going forward, what they're going to do with their pitching. Some other news that just we've seen kind of catching up on Ronald Acuna. He was scratched from the starting lineup during Sunday's 9-1 loss to the Red Sox to wrap up their regular season due to some left wrist irritation. It appears that they were moving him more precautionary, expected him to be in the lineup for game one of Atlanta's wildcard series against the Reds on Wednesday. Cunha had missed 2 weeks in August with some left wrist issues as well, but it seems like manager Brian Snitker did not seem concerned about it, didn't think he's going to miss game one. That's some positive news. Chris Martin, he had to leave Sunday's regular season finale as well in the 7th inning due to a right groin discomfort. The right-hander threw 4 pitches in the inning before calling for the training staff, though he was able to walk off the field to the clubhouse unassisted. For the Miami Marlins, Jose Urena was drilled by a comebacker in the 3rd inning in the Marlins' 5-0 win over the Yankees on Sunday, sustaining a fractured left forearm that ended his season. Coming off the bat of DJ LeMahieu, that thing was coming hot, too, if you haven't seen it, 103.9 miles per hour. Starling Marte also suffered a left ear contusion when he was hit on the brim of his helmet by a pitch in the 2nd inning. He's expected to be fine and in the lineup for game one of Miami's wildcard series against the Cubs on Wednesday. Manager Don Mattingly describing it in the best way possible, saying, I think we dodged a bullet with that one. So, should be good with them moving forward. The Milwaukee Brewers, Brett Anderson had to exit his start Sunday in the loss to the Cardinals in the 3rd inning with a blister on his left index finger, an injury he spent time with on the IL to begin the season. We'll see if he's in any of the Brewers' pitching plans, especially game one when it might be a pitcher by committee type of thing, because, well, their ace, Corbin Burns, was placed on the 10-day IL Friday with a left oblique strain after he had exited his final regular season start early on Thursday with some lower back discomfort. This ailment, which impacted him, made one of his worst outings. You could tell when he was throwing, there was some discomfort going on. He was 1/3 of an inning shy of qualifying for the ERA title, and then he ended up posting a 2.11 mark over the 59 2/3 frames. It was a little bit of a bummer, especially considering his last start, but we'll see if health will be better. Burns would likely miss potentially the first 2 rounds of the playoffs if the Brewers can pull the upset over the Dodgers. So bad news for Milwaukee, who definitely would need all the pitching help they can get moving forward. For the Padres, Dinelson Lamet had a little bit of a scare, been pretty dominant starting pitcher for the season. He took himself out of San Diego's 6-5 victory in Game 2 of a doubleheader against the Giants on Friday after he threw a slider in the 4th. He was calling for the trainer, ended up leaving the game. Manager Jay Stingler called it a tightness in his biceps area. But positive news, Lamet came back to the ballpark Saturday, good spirits, saying he was feeling better than he normally does. Started the day before. Optimistic that they avoided some sort of serious injury. They're planning for him to be the starter in game one of the wildcard series on Wednesday at Petco Park. Clevenger, on the other hand, Mike Clevenger exited Wednesday afternoon's game against the Angels after just 1 inning due to a flare-up of the biceps tightness that caused him to be scratched from last Saturday's start. Jay Stingler said he would not rule out Clevenger for the upcoming wildcard series, but we'll see with that one coming forward. Definitely a second flare-up makes it seem like things are going to be quite problematic. Looking at some other baseball news for the Houston Astros, first baseman Yuri Gurriel and the Houston Astros have agreed to a 1-year contract with an option for 2022 that guarantees $7 million, a cut of nearly 20% from his 2020 deal. This becomes a very interesting decision as the Astros are going to be gearing up potentially for a very big offseason. Now, like we said, they took game one versus the Twins. As we were recording this, game one was over. They're up in their series. They could move forward. Things could be okay. But I have kind of been thinking about this. They are in an interesting spot with Verlander being gone next year, Greinke having one season left on his contract, some of their guys underperforming this year, Houston's going to have to change their roster, I think, a little bit next year. We'll see what happens. This agreement was announced hours before they started their game against the Twins today. On time, definitely, for a contract decision to be made for the future, but both sides able to strike a deal, so they're going to move ahead with that. No problems at all. Congrats to the Astros. It looks like they got a guy who wants to stick around, definitely going through a lot so far this season. So that's kind of just a look into some news and noise. There's a lot of other things that have been announced, like a lot of pitching matchups. That's been great to see. We saw Kyle Hendricks is getting the game one start for the Marlins. That's something big to see. A lot of other teams are throwing out their starters. We still have some that are making decisions at the time of this recording as well. We might see some committee pitching out there today, and that's okay. That's playing to the odds, right? You don't want to see someone a bunch of times anyway, so sometimes you just got to go with a platoon to get you through the first few games. We have a ton of things we still want to talk about, including some playoff X factors. I'm going to tell you, if your team wants to go far in this postseason, you're going to need some guys to step up. It happens every single year. I'm going to give you a list of guys that need to step up in the American League and National League for the upcoming postseason here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast.
This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
So let's start getting into the big stuff here. Just got done about news and noise, getting you caught up on some injuries, some other news that are going on across the MLB. But we need to start talking about who matters in this postseason. And now I shouldn't narrow this down. I really shouldn't. Because when you look at it, every single team has a group of guys that need to step it up, that need to pick up their game, that need to help you carry you along in a postseason. There's nothing crazy to say about that. But if we can narrow it down a little bit, I definitely think I have some names of guys that need to help out to make sure a postseason run can happen. Now, I will have to say this. There are some teams where there was much that goes into this. There's a lot of guys that I could have picked, for sure. But I tried to narrow it down the best I can, keep it to at least two people in the consideration, picking kind of one more over the other. We're going to change things up just a little bit. I always start with the American League. I know that. I'm starting to catch that on myself. So I'm going to change things, and I'm going to start with the National League because I felt like these ones were a little more clear. I definitely think it was easier to pick the guys across the board in the National League. I don't know why. I could have gone with definitely a bunch of other names, but it just felt like, yeah, that's the easy decision. This guy needs to pick it up for many reasons. So we're going to start things off. We're going to work from 8 up to 1. 8 up to 1. So starting with our 8 seed, the Milwaukee Brewers. You remember when I said it was easier in the National League? Yeah, this one's easy. We need to find out if Christian Yelich remembers how to baseball here. Great player over the last 2 seasons. Sad the injury that we had to see so that he wasn't with the Brewers to make their postseason run, qualify, be there for that wild card game. It was a real bummer. It really was, because over the last 2 seasons, I don't think we've seen anybody, at least before this year, that looked better hitting the ball. I mean, power, average, everything. This guy was phenomenal. This year, he is definitely trying to figure some things out, and it just has not been great. If you're a Brewer fan, you understand. Now, the team has not given up on him, which why would you? It's a short sample season. We understand through 60 games, people are going to go through ups and downs for sure. But as he's been constantly working towards the top of the order, Craig Counsell's been keeping him there. He just hasn't been able to get it all together. A 205 batting average, not going to cut it. 356 on base percentage is all right considering how much he's just not getting hits. 7 doubles on the year, 12 home runs, which that is nice to see. He's still getting some home runs out there. 22 RBIs. This guy, I haven't seen it like some other teams. When he is hot, he just carries you. He's done that for 2 seasons. And you can tell the Brewers offense is just lacking without it because the whole offense is slumping. Everybody. They've gotten a few guys going a little bit towards the end of the year, but Yelich is that guy they need because he's at the top of the order. He's usually that person to move runners or be that leadoff runner. They comfortably bat him in that 2 spot. You just got to think he's someone that needs to get going because if the Brewers want to move on, it's not their pitching that I'm concerned about. It's not their pitching. Their bullpen is great. Their starters have been all right. They need to have offense. And when it comes to facing the Dodgers in the first round, yeah, you're going to have to score. So, Christian Yelich, you got to pick it up. For the Cincinnati Reds, I hate to ask more of a guy that's given you so much. He might be a Cy Young winner. Trevor Bauer. Come out and set the tone because you know what? He's got that attitude. He's got a lot to prove. He wants to show guys he wants a big contract. And you know, when you watch him on the mound, he's confident. He's got that strut. He's definitely doing the things you love to see as a teammate. And if he continues to bring that energy, that momentum once again, the Reds, they're going to feed off that. They are for sure going to feed off that. So I think Trevor Bauer is a great pick for someone to keep this team going. And like I said, he's been phenomenal for them this season. He might win the Cy Young. Now, it's not strange to see a guy not have the greatest record in the world and win a Cy Young. We've kind of gotten past that with advanced metrics, a lot of statistics. But with that all said, 5-4 was not good enough for Bauer with the way he pitched this year. 1.73 ERA, 100 strikeouts, over 12 a game. He was phenomenal. And the Reds are going to need him to continue to be great if they want to keep going. For the Miami Marlins, I'm thinking more the same. It's going to be some pitching. Now, I had a couple names that I thought about. Starting pitching is the thing that's going to carry this team. It really is. They got some electric arms, some fun arms. But the guy that I'm going with is Sandy Alcantara, mainly because I'm looking at the right now. The right now, right away. He's getting the bump, going to get to the bump on round 1. First game up against the Cubs. He can go out, send a message, bring some life to this team. Similar with Bauer. Okay? He has the chance to help push this team. And the starting pitching for the Marlins, not the Rays, the Marlins is going to be huge. We'll get to the Rays in a little bit. Marlins is going to be huge. And so I really hope to see that out of Alcantara and Sixto Sanchez and Pablo Lopez. I mean, all of these guys. All of these guys. But I picked Alcantara just because he's the guy who gets the first crack, and we'll see where he goes from there. For the Cardinals, sometimes it's all right to just go with a team stud. It really is. Paul Goldschmidt, just keep doing what you do best, and that's just hitting the ball. Steady, steady, steady. The NL Central had to be so upset when he got traded to St. Louis. They really did, because the guy just continues to produce. Batted .304 on the season, 6 home runs, 21 RBIs in 58 games, .417 on base percentage. Quality player. Quality player. Sometimes all you can ask, can you get your best player to keep going? And when Goldschmidt is going, similar with Yelich, when your best guy is hot, it's contagious, and your players just continue to give you everything they got. And I think he would be a great pick to keep rolling, especially when they have a very tough season and they have to play against the San Diego Padres, which, speaking of those Padres, I want to see Fernando Tatis pick it up. I really do. Now, His numbers are interesting because if you look at his last 7 games, he hasn't been bad. Batting 292, 2 home runs, 5 RBIs. That's just last 7 games. But his last 15 games, 170 batting average. That's not going to cut it. This guy was a clear-cut front runner, it felt like, for MVP for a long stretch of the season, and he went ice cold. Now, others on his team picked him up, but this Padres team was at its best when Tatis was rolling. Okay? I would love to see him continuing. Okay? Going with Fernando Tatis, the Padres will make a run if this guy is a big part of it. For the Cubs, here's the first one that I really felt like was a challenge. There's a list of dudes on this team that really, really need to all pick up their games. Because from year to year, things have been getting tougher for the Cubs since they won that World Series. They're bouncing out sooner each season past. And I really don't want to put it on pitchers because some of their pitchers have been great this year. Hendricks has been good for them. Darvish has been great. I really don't want to put on their bullpen either. I feel like their offense could be better. So I kind of split this one in 2 stars that they have that have been underperforming on the season. Javi Baez batting 203, 8 home runs, 24 RBIs. On base percentage, yuck, 238. Needs to be better. I mean, I can really pick on him. He needs to be better. But there's also another guy who's supposed to be a stud in Chris Bryant. Now, he's played 34 games. He's had a tougher time to get going, but he's only batting 206 with a 293 on base percentage, a little better on base, but not much. 4 home runs, 11 RBIs. Like we said, limited games compared to Javi Baez, 25 less. But these two have a lot of pressure on them. A great deal. And they will get going much better if that offense is clicking. Rizzo, another guy who could pick it up. Ian Happ has been good for them. There's just a lot of names here. But the guys that we rely on, the ones that are kind of the face of this franchise, Baez, Bryant, they need to be big-time players. Big-time players for the Cubs to move on. The Braves, I'm putting this one similar to the Cardinals. Your guy that is awesome, keep being awesome. Freddie Freeman. This guy should be a National League MVP. I really do strongly think that. Should be an MVP. Has been phenomenal. And they don't lack great offensive players. So let's start there. I understand they have a lot going on. Dansby Swanson had one of his best years. Ozuna has been outstanding for the Braves as well. When he's healthy, obviously Ronald Acuna has a lot that's been going his way. This offense is great. It really is. But I want to see Freddie Freeman continuing to hit the living crap out of the ball. Batting 341. That's awesome. 13 home runs, 53 RBIs, on base percentage of 462. I mean, that's outstanding. Him and Ozuna were great. I'm just going with Freeman because he's the guy who's just had a little bit better numbers. So I want to see him continue to thrive in the playoffs. And then the LA Dodgers, it may not be fair to put pressure, make him the X factor, but we do need to talk about Mookie Betts. And now I say it won't be fair because he got traded for. He signed the contract. He's been good. He's produced. But the Dodgers are looking at him as this was the piece. We traded prospects. We traded away. We signed you to this big deal because we think you are the piece to finally get us over this hump. What we were missing, we were a Mookie Betts away. So he's definitely under the microscope. We're going to be watching him this postseason. What can he do to make sure the Dodgers finally capture that title they have been chasing for in recent years? So that's going to be it for my National League X Factors. Let's look at that American League now. Doing the same thing. We're going to go 8 up. And I have my reason for this one for the Blue Jays. Toronto. I'm looking at Hyun-Jin Ryu. Sneakily had a great season. He really did for the Blue Jays. And he was their big free agent grab. Spent the money to get a top-end ace. Guy who's going to be there for all your big games. He's not starting game 1 for the Blue Jays. He's coming in for game 2. Well, their starter with a 5-2 record, 2.69 ERA, 72 strikeouts. He's going to have either the potential to lock things down for Toronto, or when their backs are against the wall, prevent them from going home in 2 games. I think it's very important that Ryu brings his best and shows that he was worth that massive contract that they doled out for him. Finding a quality ace is tough. The regular season, these 60 games, he was good. Let's see if it continues in the postseason. Problem is, the guy has to go up against one of the best teams in the the Tampa Bay Rays. We'll see what he can give. The White Sox. I want to see Luis Robert bring it back up. Now, defensively, this guy might be one of the best center fielders in baseball as a rookie. That's fun to say. Fun to say when you're one of the best. To start the year, his stick, exciting. Did a lot of great things at the plate. He's cool. He's cool. That's why he's not going to win Rookie of the Year, I don't think. But that doesn't mean he can't get hot again and help out in the postseason. At 233, 11 home runs, 31 RBIs. If he gets going, if he truly gets going and gives another bat to this offense, man, I like those White Sox. I like them a lot. Let's see what can happen with Chicago. For Houston, we're going to compare this a great deal to Christian Yelich, and that Jose Altuve, he needs to get his stuff going again. Slump season. Definitely down. Big microscope on them considering the fact of all of the controversy in the offseason. It's got to be so hard to play with that. I understand. Whether he's guilty, innocent, I don't really care about that. I'm talking about guys that need to pick up their game if their team wants to make a run. Jose Altuve has been a staple in that offense for quite some time. And through 48 games this year, batting .219, 286 on base percentage, not going to cut it. He has been the dude that has just been tough and strong. He needs to bring it back. And there's other guys on that team we can be talking about as well, for sure. Bregman limited in games, but you would think that he needs to pick it up a little bit, considering where he was last year. There's a lot of ways we could go with this. I could put a lot of pressure on Zach Greinke. Had a big game 1 today. There's a lot of different ways you can go, but I'm looking at Altuve. For the New York Yankees, sitting at that 5 seed, if they're fully healthy, which we won't truly know, but at least they got a lot of their guys out there playing. Aaron Judge is someone that I want to see be his best in this postseason. Now, there's great players in the Yankees. Voit leading the league in home runs. He was awesome. LeMahieu leading the league in batting average. He was awesome. We know how good those two have been. But if the Yankees don't succeed, we're going to look at their stars. Welcome to New York City, where the big faces, the big names, the guys who've been getting all the spotlight are going to be either praised or shamed. And I think a lot is going to fall on Aaron Judge. I really do. Limited in games this year. When he played early, man, he looked good. Looked really good. We'll see what he ends up bringing in the postseason. But the more that the Yankees get from Judge, it's only going to help, considering some of their other offensive players have really put together strong performances this season, probably hoping it to carry on to the postseason. The Indians. Here was one that was tough for me. I'm going to say my 1A is Jose Ramirez, who's been awesome. And this is another one of those situations where I don't want to put more pressure on the guy who's been great, but we know what their strength has been. Pitching in Cleveland. We know Bieber's phenomenal. We know they have Carrasco. We know they have Plesac. We know what's coming. It's going to be up to the offense, especially when you're playing a series against this Yankees team. It's going to be up to the offense for the Indians to get things going. And I say Jose Ramirez is 1A because he's been so good, but I'm going to look at another guy on their team who has been all right but needs to be better, in Francisco Lindor. Offensive production needs to come help your pitchers out. Let's see if that can happen for the Indians. If they don't get any pitching support, I don't care, or some run support, I don't care how great your pitching is. In the postseason, you need to score some runs. So we'll see what ends up happening there. And funny enough, as I say it, Aaron Judge, home run off Shane Bieber. Going to be up to some other guys to help out. Got to pick those up. We'll see what happens with that series. That one's going to be a fun one. I like that Indians-Yankees series. Going to be exciting. For the Twins, just lost Game 1 against Houston. I want to see Byron Buxton continue to be hot. Now, they were saying it in the game over and over and over again, and I really do believe it. Byron Buxton could be the best defensive player in baseball, best defensive player in center field. Fully agree. Could be right up there. His last 15 games, batting .278, 8 home runs, 14 RBIs. That's the Buxton they were hoping for when he was the top prospect for so long. With Donaldson leaving, any help to the offense is going to be taken, and it's going to be appreciated. It's going to be loved for a Twins team that, I'll be honest, I think they get a tough break against the Astros team that's probably hungry to prove something. A Twins team that finally gets away from the Yankees and start the playoffs. Let's see if they can get things together. Let's see if Byron Buxton can stay hot and help this team and push them over the hump. Oakland A's, I wanted to be a cop-out here and just say your offensive stars need to just flat out produce. I really wanted to go that way. But, I wanted to narrow it down. So I wrote down Matt Olson, Marcus Semien, leaning more towards Matt Olson because while he has home runs to his name, that's about it. 42 RBIs, 14 home runs, a 195 batting average. That 195 batting average is a problem. Okay? If he comes out with some great power numbers, we're going to be talking about this Oakland team a lot more. They need to put up runs as well. They're kind of in the same boat with the Indians. You're going to be playing against a great offense right away. The White Sox, who actually just took Game 1 from Oakland, 4-1. You're not going to win many games with one run in the playoffs. You're not going to win many one-run games against the against the Chicago White Sox. So this offense has some guys that really need to step it up. Marcus Semien, like I said, Matt Olson, we need to get up there. A lot of pressure, especially with Matt Chapman gone. A lot of guys going to be feeling some pressure in that batting order. We'll see what happens with Oakland. And then the top one, the Tampa Bay Rays. Now this one was tough. This one was incredibly tough. Narrowing this down. I mean, I looked at starting pitchers as a whole and saying, well, hold down Toronto's young bats right away. Move on. This starting rotation could carry a team really deep. Their bullpen is really good, so I don't feel like there's an X factor there. So just like we did with the Cardinals, just like we did with the Braves, let's just look at your best player and say your best player needs to execute. He needs to bring his best. And that best player so far this year for Tampa Bay has been Brandon Lowe. So you need to continue to get production from him. This team is deep. It's got the ability to do so many things with its lineup. Pitchers that are great. What you have, and the bullpen is awesome. It was just really hard to narrow it down to one guy. But we're going to look at Brandon Lowe around that 270 average, 14 home runs, 37 RBIs, 362 on base percentage. Continue to be the guy. Continue to be the strong guy. The leader of that offense for Tampa Bay. Maybe even pick things up a little bit. And if he continues to play well, Tampa Bay Rays, they might just make a run. So that's going to be it for my playoff X Factors. We ran over a little bit here, so we're going to have to take a quick break. But when we come back, we're going to look at some awards. We got to talk about this stuff here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Well, with the end of the season being right here, major award watch. We need to talk about some of these awards in the regular season, where we think they are. I mean, this has been an interesting season. We kind of knew coming in 60 games wasn't going to be enough to really separate some of these teams, some of these players, I should say, as well, as we're talking about awards. But with that said, most of these races feel like they are either locked up by a couple guys or they are just so wide open. So it's interesting to talk about. This season, we thought about it at the beginning, how this could be a season of straight chaos. We don't really know what's going to happen for numbers. We could take guesses, predictions based on where we were at 60 games in the last year, where were we at in some of the best 60-game stretches that we've seen, but we didn't know fully how things were going to shape up. And so I want to talk about some of these major awards, where we're sitting, and I'm going to start things off with one that I think is just kind of almost completely locked up between two guys. And like I said previously, these races are one of two things. It's not, hey, we have three really good candidates, any could win. No, it's either we have this guy feels like he's going to win it, or we just have crazy depth at the spots while we're trying to figure out who really is the best of the best. And starting things off with the American League Rookie of the Year. This really falls between two guys who have been pretty dominant start to finish in the 2020 season. I mean, it really doesn't go really past Kyle Lewis and Luis Robert when it comes to the American League. We can't go past these two guys. Kyle Lewis has been a powerful, strong bat when it comes to everything that the Mariners could have needed. Home runs, average, RBIs. He's been giving it all to the Mariners so far this season. Seattle has found a just absolute stud. He was up a little bit last year, and he wasn't showing these numbers like he is this year. I can't imagine many people thought it was going to be happening. He's dipped batting under 300, but he has spent a lot of his season over 300. On base percentage creeping towards that 400 as well. But double-digit home runs, over 20 RBIs. I mean, he's been great. Been steady. But we also have a guy in Luis Robert. Pretty clear with how his season has gone. He came out hot out of the gates, that's for sure. We saw him coming out blazing, hitting the ball like crazy. Obviously chilled as the season went on, batting just above 220. Definitely a lot of the appearances at the plate just haven't been as great. Now, definitely a lower average. Everything looks to be down a little bit. And then you have 30-plus RBIs. His defense is out of this world as well. He's showed that he's a 5-tool player for sure, even with that batting average slip as the year has been going on. It just looks like Kyle Lewis has held on long enough in their little bit of a slump for the two guys, but their stats are still going to look fun for some really good young rookies going forward. These guys really just stand head and toe just all the way above all the other American League rookies. It doesn't feel like a close race. I mean, I don't really have any other guys that when I dive into it that I'm like, we really need to be talking about these guys as well. It's just the way it's falling for sure for the American League. I'm thinking that Kyle Lewis is going to end up with this award. Probably going to get a lot of the votes. Luis Roberts going to get a ton of votes as well, but I think Kyle Lewis is going to walk away with this one. But two exciting young rookies that are going to be fun to watch for many, many seasons ahead. For the National League Rookie of the Year, this one is loaded. This one is loaded as well. Now, one guy feels like he's the easy pick for all of this, and that's going to be Jake Cronenworth. Okay, he is the decision, and just because of some injuries being timely, getting him into the lineup, that has helped him a lot. He came out hot to start the season. He's still hovering around that 300 mark. Power isn't necessarily lingering around. He's not a great home run guy for you, but he's been given RBIs. He's been getting on base, and that's the thing that's been the strongest for him. And he's become a staple of the offense for a dominant offensive team already. I mean, you have the likes of Machado and Tatis and Hosmer and all these guys. Him forcing his way into that lineup is a big sign of how good he is, and he's just been one of the more steady rookies as well. Similar to those guys in the American League. Came out hot, looked really good, slumped a little bit, but his numbers still look pretty good in the sense that he should win this thing, that's for sure. There's a few pitchers that get to be interesting in the conversation, that's for sure. We've talked about Dustin May a lot. He has been in the conversation a great deal. He's been an exciting pitcher, fun to watch. ERA, under that 3 number, whip hovering around 1 itself. He's not getting as many strikeouts a game as his stuff is electrifying. It looks like he should be striking out so many guys. But he gave, over 50 innings for the Dodgers this year. Strong for the Dodgers. Really not getting enough wins considering how many innings he's put in. His numbers it's hard for a pitcher to take it over position players. It's very difficult because you need a combination of a few things. There to be no good position players whatsoever, and the pitching needs to be straight up pretty dominant. And while he's been good, the position play of Cronenworth just looks like things are going to be a little bit better. Another pitcher that gets to be interesting in the conversation just because he's been electrifying as well is going to be Sixto Sanchez for the Marlins. He has been fun. He's a guy that's on the rise. He doesn't have the innings pitched. That's going to hurt him. The ERA is under 3. That's great. Strikeouts, he lingers under that 10 mark as well, closer to about 8. He would be in a conversation. People are going to talk about him, but again, he's not lights out dominant pitcher numbers to take it away from Cronenworth, that's for sure. And another guy that this is a long shot, a outside long shot. But if you want to talk about someone who has been a dominant pitcher and rookie who has been great, you have to talk about Devin Williams for the Brewers. One of the lowest ERAs that you could see for a reliever that's getting consistent innings. Over 25 innings pitched. His changeup is the nastiest changeup in baseball. I believe the stat I read was hitters are 1-59 against his changeup. With, I believe it was upwards of close to 40 strikeouts. I mean, just swings and misses against this thing. He should be talked about. I don't think if it'll be enough for him to win, being a reliever, not getting a ton of innings compared to some of these other guys, but he will need to be in the conversation, I think, for sure. And then one other guy that gets to be a little bit interesting in all of this is Alec Bohm for the Phillies. He's been a strong bat added to that team, trying to get their season going together, obviously, towards the end. Batting over 300. showing a little bit of power. RBIs up over 20. I mean, it might be the lack of games that gets him. I think that might be it, just coming up a little bit later. Hard to say. He'll be in the conversation as well, but I think this is Cronenworth's award. So American League Rookie of the Year, Kyle Lewis. National League Rookie of the Year, I'm guessing it's going to be Jake Cronenworth. Those two. Cy Young. Do we really need to talk about the American League? Like that's a serious conversation. It's going to be Shane Bieber. Period. There's really no other conversation to be had there. I mean, Dallas Keuchel's been having a surprising little bit of a season, that's for sure. We could talk about Kenta Maeda having a little bit of a surprise season. Lance Lynn obviously has been good. Garrett Cole has been all right, but Bieber has just been flat out the most dominant pitcher in baseball. Dominant. ERA, wins, strikeouts, whip, strikeouts per 9 innings. Like, what do you want? Anything, we'll give it to you. WAR is up there. It's an easy decision, and it's going to get to be more of, okay, this guy has been so good. He has been the best pitcher in baseball. Maybe we need to be talking about him in the MVP as well. We'll see. So he's easily going to be the Cy Young. I'm not even going to waste time on that one. Not going to do it. National League Cy Young, this one gets a little more interesting. Trevor Bauer has been up there. He has to be one of the guys that's a favorite for sure coming in, especially considering the fact how good he's been and how little run support he has had across the season. Record doesn't look as good because he's not getting help from the rest of the team, but yet he is pitching so well. That's going to be something taken into account. Look at what happened with Jacob deGrom last year. And bringing that up, Jacob deGrom is going to be another guy that's in the conversation, having another really good season, low ERA around that 2 mark, strikeouts being there, just being the dominant pitcher he has been consistently. But there's a few more names that make this interesting. Yu Darvish has been really good as well. Low ERA around that 2 mark, great record, a lot of quality starts, getting strikeouts as well per 9. We'll talk about Max Fried, who's been awesome for an Atlanta Braves team that has needed starting pitching so much. He has an ERA that's been below 2 for a lot of the season. Been definitely a great piece for them. And then Corbin Burnes, who is coming on very strong to end the season, giving some quality starts. He may have ran away with this award if he didn't have such a shaky start to the season. That's the thing that probably hurt him the most, is getting comfortable, getting things going, because he's behind some of these guys in innings. But he has been, at least for 2/3 of the season, potentially the best starter in baseball. It's going to, I think, be a close vote between Bauer and Burnes. I think it's going to get interesting with those two, because Darvish and deGrom and Fried, while they've all been great, they've fallen off a little bit. Bauer might be one of the favorites. I would say I'd be leaning Bauer or Burnes with this one. It all depends on how people are viewing this. Do they look at the season as the whole? Do they look at just the pitcher stats? Do they maybe look how hot they were coming at the end of the year? I think voting is going to get very interesting on this one. I would have to say I'm probably leaning Trevor Bauer at the moment. At the moment, I think that's where I would be leaning. So AL Cy Young, Shane Bieber. NL Cy Young, I'm thinking it's going to be Trevor Bauer. And then MVPs. Holy man. American League and National League. This is tough. There are so many names to discuss. So many names to discuss overall. American League MVP is going to be hard. We talked about Shane Bieber. Has he been good enough that he's going to get some votes? I won't be surprised if some are pulled his way. Nelson Cruz. Won't be surprised if he gets some votes. But the thing is, he's a DH. That's going to hurt him. That's 2 guys that are going to be pulling votes away from the rest. Mike Trout. Your team really isn't that great, but your numbers aren't bad. Are you going to be getting some of these votes? That's interesting. Brandon Lowe. Are we going to be looking at the best player on the Rays, one of the best record? That one's going to get interesting. And I might even just be kind of poo-pooing away Luke Voit for the Yankees with his home run numbers and power numbers. I feel like I am just pulling away. But I think if I had to pencil it in, and it really is pencil, there is no pen, there's no ink here, we have to talk about Jose Abreu and Jose Ramirez. Abreu having the counting numbers, the home runs, the RBIs, batting average. Ramirez having some great statistical performances for the Indians, a team that is lacking offense. He has been great. If I'm having to pick between the two, I'm leaning Abreu. And I laugh about this too because I wonder who really had the statistical odds for Abreu at the beginning of the year to be American League MVP. That's a long shot bet that was probably going to cash in for quite a bit of coin. But I think our American League MVP is going to have to be Jose Abreu for what he's done for a Chicago White Sox team that was not expected to really be here. That's for sure. National League MVP, a lot of the same. Mookie Betts is going to be one of the guys that's up there. He has been consistently around that 300 mark, hitting a lot of home runs, RBIs, doing great for one of the best teams. We talked about Brandon Lowe, great record. Well, best record in the National League, their best player, Mookie Betts. He's going to get votes. He's going to get consideration for that. The Padres right behind him. Fernando Tatis had been in the conversation for a lot of the season. He had his slight slump. I actually think Manny Machado has passed him as more of a favorite. That's for sure. But I actually think if I was going to vote this, the guy that I would be picking would be Freddie Freeman. Batting average, top 5 for a lot of the season. Home runs, double digits, up there. RBIs, hits, everything. On base percentage, crazy high. And most importantly, most games played. He's played a lot of these games. He has not missed much. I think Freddie Freeman is going to get a lot of votes, a lot of consideration, especially when you consider the fact that it may sneak up on you, but the Braves have been potentially the best offense on the year. And so you got to give your shout out to Acuna Jr. and Ozuna, who've been great as well for that Atlanta team. But I think Freddie Freeman's going to get some love. I think I would vote for him. And another guy sitting on the outside, don't be surprised if Juan Soto gets votes because his season has been dominant. He missed some games, but he has come back strong and has been one of the best players, showing that he is going to be a great player moving forward. But I think American League MVP, Jose Abreu, National League MVP, Freddie Freeman. And when you look at this list of guys, I mean, how many of these were really projected? MVPs, Abreu, Freeman. Freeman may not have surprised some people, but I think Abreu would have. Rookie of the Year, Kyle Lewis. I'm thinking more people were leaning Luis Robert. Cronenworth was probably a major surprise for a lot of people for Rookie of the Year. And then Cy Young, Shane Bieber. While we know he was good, I think there were other names. Garrett Cole for sure. Verlander was probably talked about that we would have thought would have been more up there. National League Cy Young, I don't think Trevor Bauer, Yu Darvish were going to be considered. Corbin Burns, no way. I don't think Burns would have been the favorite on his team at the start of the season. I think that would have been Woodruff. Jacob deGrom would have been up there, but just a lot of surprises. And, that's 60 games for you, too. I mean, this obviously could have changed. We could have had many different storylines if we played a full season, but if you were throwing out some bets on these guys, just taking some chances, I think you would have been surprised with some of the results you got. That's for sure. We're going to take a quick break here, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about some rookies here, some future rookie ranks to be in our last segment. We had a lot of great rookies, so we need to bring them up. I mean, it was a great season for young players. It really was. And so it's exciting to look forward into the future, even though some of these guys might not be playing in the postseason. But we got to give them some due here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast.
Want to know the latest in soccer? Then listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast. From MLS, the World Cup, and the Premier League, we've got you covered. The latest updates, the hottest matches, and news on the league's top players. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast.
David Beckham scores the goal to take England all the way to the World Cup finals.
Listen now.
All right, rookies. It's time to talk about you guys just a little bit more. Understandably so, considering the fact that, hey, a lot of you guys didn't get the love that you needed in the Rookie of the Year talk that we just had previously. That's okay. That's okay. Because we want to take the time and talk about these rookies in the sense of what they give us in the future. Who has future value? This was a beautiful, beautiful, well-written, fun article by Jim Callis on MLB.com looking into value. What do these guys bring to the table down the line? Now, some of these I agree with pretty in stride when it comes with Callis. Some of them I question a little bit because we're kind of hoping that some of these guys pop a little bit more. But we got to talk about the fact that some of them as well also don't necessarily have as much playing time this year. So he's taking a chance that some of them are going to just get better and better. And so we're going to look at them and their stats a little bit this year as well as we talk about them. And we just have to bring up the whole fact of, well, these are future projections, predictions. He's going to have his decision on this, but the list is a fun one. As I said previously, it goes all the way down to the top 30 that he thinks. So let's dive right into this. I don't think there's any surprise here. He's not going to win the Rookie of the Year this year. If you would ask me, I don't think he's going to win the Rookie of the Year, but his 5-tool talent is pretty undeniable when you talk about Luis Robert for the White Sox. Only 22 years old. Slumped through September a little bit, but power, speed, ability to play defense, I mean, it's as good as advertised. Everything that has been said about him seems to have just come right into place. Excitement. He's one of the best defenders in baseball in center field already, and this is in his rookie season. He's got some pop at the plate. I just look forward to him getting better. You know, his batting average isn't 100% where you want it to be. You want it to climb a little bit. But at age 22, there is just so much promise from everything that we have seen from him so far this season. This guy hits balls hard. His exit velocity is up there. Power, distance on home runs is up there as well. He is showing that he has it all. The White Sox future, even just past Luis Robert, is so crazy bright. With all the young talent they have on this team, all the players they brought in, have signed, traded for over the recent years, they have built things. They've put it all together. Luis Robert's going to be a big part of it going forward. He's number one on that power rankings, future rankings, most excitement. I can't argue him being at number one. There's other guys that might also be as deserving, but you can't really argue him. I mean, this whole top, 6 or 7, is all pretty great. Number 2 is Gavin Lux. Interesting story with Lux coming from the Dodgers. He was a favorite for a lot of people to win the National League Rookie of the Year. Didn't make the opening day roster for the Dodgers. Now he's trying to nail down a spot where he is locked in, but with how deep and how good the Dodgers really are, he hasn't been able to get that. It's going to come in the future. Okay? Only 22 years old as well. He can hit for power, hit for average, plus speed, great baseball IQ. He's going to be great. We're just waiting to see when he gets his full-time opportunity to take over. And when he does, Gavin Lux is a guy that many believe is going to pop. And I agree. I think he's going to definitely be a great player in the future. 2 may be a little tough. I like to take a little bit of recency into these as well. We'll see with him. I think that there's a few names we can slide ahead of him, but 2 seems fair. It's fair. Up in that top 5, top 6, I think he's going to be in that area. If you think he's the second, go for it. Right behind him, a guy who's been a quality starter for the Oakland Athletics this year, Jesus Luzardo. He had a positive coronavirus test beginning of July. That slowed him down. But as the season goes further and further, he is looking like the future ace that the A's were thinking he was going to be. 3+ pitches, has control. He's just been solid for Oakland. Been their best starter all year. I mean, when you're a rookie pitcher and you come in and you are the guy, that really says a lot about you, especially on a team with such a great record in the American League, been so competitive, just holding things down. He's the guy of the future. Guy of the future right there. He may not have the lowest ERA, but you can just tell he is the dude on that team. He really is. Number 4, Dustin May. Another dude that is going to be top-end starter. Velocity and movement. That's the big thing in this article. His two-seam fastball, his curveball, unbelievable. And I don't know if Dustin May just has a beef with Manny Machado, but it feels like every time that I see just a little snippet of one of his 98-mile-per-hour fastballs, two-seamers just moving crazy, it's against Machado. Why is it always him? Is Dustin May just bringing it against him? I don't know. I feel like he's been around forever as well, and I don't know why. I don't know why it feels like Dustin May has been around for such a long time, been talking about him for so long, but he's only 22 years old as well. These top 4 guys, all 22, and I think that's a big part of why they are the top 4, just because they are the youngest on this list. If you move any of these 4 around, I'm not going to argue with you. I really am not, because I think all 4 are going to be great, and from what we've seen already from them, it's hard to argue against any of them. Number 5, Alec Bohm for the Phillies, getting called up in this season. He was the best college bat in 2018 in that draft. Went 3rd overall. It's been as good as advertised for him as well. He has been a solid addition to an offense that we already think should be pretty good. But he's going to make it even better. Brings a lot of fun to this. A lot of fun. I am upset with the Phillies. They should be better. They really should. But Bohm coming in with that 300 above average, having some power, gets on base. He's going to have a positive, great future for the Phillies as well. First one that drops outside of that age 22 at 23 years old. He's someone that is definitely young, promising, talented. It's going to be great for them. Number 6, and this is the first one where I'm just kind of like, man, it seems unfair, considering the fact that he is going to be our Rookie of the Year, and he has been so good throughout the season. It's Kyle Lewis, and he is the oldest of that top 6. Like I said, that top 6 can be pretty interchangeable so far with Luis Robert, Gavin Lux, Jesus Luzardo, Dustin May, Alec Bohm, and Kyle Lewis. I could see you go any way with a lot of these guys, even if Kyle Lewis hasn't shown the most potential out of those other 5. I mean, he's shown production, and you got to believe in it. Serious knee injury was his problem, why he was set back for what was believed about 3 years for the Mariners. 6 home runs in last September to get things rolling, and he's improved with his plate discipline. I know early in the year I talked about that a lot. I worried about how many strikeouts he had to walks. That has improved as the summer went on, and his defense has gotten better. He had a great robbing of a home run earlier this season. He's showing that he can play that center field spot, and that's big for the Mariners. It feels like it's been quite a while since they've had just a franchise player guy. I mean, Felix Hernandez for a long time, but that's a pitcher. That's a guy coming out there every 5 days. It feels like it's been quite a while since they've had that player for Seattle to get so excited about. And that's going to be Kyle Lewis moving forward. Next guy, Carter Kieboom. He didn't replace Anthony Rendon at third base, but he's going to be a solid hitter, raw power, quality glove. The sooner that he develops for the Nationals, we're going to be talking about this team again. Now, you hope it doesn't take long, because with Juan Soto, Trey Turner, all these guys there already, hoping for the return of Strasburg to regular form, Scherzer there for a little bit longer. You hope the Nationals are going to rebound pretty well. But we'll see what happens with that going forward. He had some big shoes to fill. And it's unfortunate considering what Rendon did before he left. But he has shown some promise. He shows that he can be a quality player. This one is definitely a great spot for him. We haven't seen it all yet, but it's something that's coming. 8, Sean Murphy, our first catcher making the list for the Athletics, age 25. His offense, home runs with a lot of walks. Defense, could be a Gold Glover. he should be a starting catcher regardless, and he's just showing potential. I love old-fashioned baseball, man. I love seeing these catchers produce. It's a position that I feel like has just been lacking in recent years with such an emphasis on offense now for so many teams. We don't feel like we have just the quality great catchers on both sides like we used to. I was reading an article recently about Pudge Rodriguez. I'm just like, man, I miss catchers that are just really great on both sides. Really great. Sean Murphy has that chance to be that guy at age 25. Definitely someone moving forward. Brady Singer comes in at 9 for the Royals. Fastball, great. Slider, great. He is just a nasty, aggressive pitcher. He's going to be Kansas City's number 1 starter. He is just what the Royals need. I have a lot of questions about a lot of things for the Royals moving forward. I don't have many about Brady Singer, considering that he could be the pitcher for them, a number 1 ace. Now it's up to, can you build the rest of the team around him? That's going to be a big question. We'll see. Let's see what happens. At 10, we got another Dodger on here, Tony Gonsolin. 9th router out of 2016. Blossomed. College two-way player, big league starter. Mid-90s fastball. Some power breaking pitches. Big-time splitter. It feels like the Dodgers continuously push out these young, quality starters. Some of them to stick around, some of them not. But talent, it's there. It continues to be there for the Dodgers. Great thing for them. 11, Nico Horner, second base for the Cubs. He only has some quality players sitting in front of him. Second base, I don't know if he's going to be there in the long term. It's hard to crack into that infield right now. We'll see what happens. He's been compared to Ian Kinsler, and I'll tell you what, that's not a bad career to have. If you told me that I was going to have a career like Ian Kinsler, that's nothing to shake your head at. That's a quality second baseman for a long time. Something that's just another positive coming from the Cubs farm system. They've done a great job with a lot of their position players, getting them up here. Somebody's just got to convince them to start getting some pitching to go their way. 12, Brendan Rodgers, second base for the Rockies. Number 3 overall pick in 2015. All-around bat, 296, 352, 503 is his lines in the minors. Versatile defensively. We might not just see him at second base. Depending on what happens with Trevor Story and Nolan Arenado going forward for the Rockies, he could be moved around in different places. He just needs to stay healthy. That's been kind of the thing knocking him down. He wants to reach his ceiling, needs to be healthy. I would bet that he would be pushed up this list a little bit more if we didn't have any injury concerns with him. 13, another Mariner, Evan White, 24-year-old. Great defender, capable of playing in the outfield. He's going to be a 20 home run guy. He's similar, though, in the sense with Kyle Lewis that strikeouts are going to be concerning. From the minors to the majors, he's almost doubled his strikeout rate. That's a big concern. But with a year in which the Mariners really didn't have that high of expectations to begin with, you know that's going to be something they work on going forward. We'll see what happens with him. I am excited for all the young players in Seattle. Continue to see him. 14, Mitch Keller for the Pirates. Man, the Pirates don't have a lot going for them this season, but there's a few young players to talk about. Control is something in his career that early on that was trouble. But he could still be a guy in your rotation, develop. Effective changeup is something to go with his plus fastball, breaking pitches. He has options. He's a positive for the Pirates moving forward. 15 then, Jake Cronenworth for the Padres. It's so surprising to see him down here. If you went off what you saw with him early in the year, I think 15 is definitely something you would have scratched your head at. But what hurts is he's already 26 years old, so definitely a lot older than a lot of these rookies. He has the potential to just be a versatile player, a great player for these Padres moving forward, already a great team. We'll see what happens with him, but he comes in at 15. Not a lot of other information, but like I said, going down to 30, Nick Solich for the Rangers is on there, Austin Hayes, Kyle Wright for the Braves, Willie Castro for the Tigers, Christian Javier for the Astros, who had an all right season for them pitching. Kind of needed a lot from him. Justice Sheffield, Jose Urquidy for the Astros, Devin Williams, which at 23, Seems tough considering he's been one of the better relievers this year. Sam Hilliard for the Rockies, Marcio Dubon for the Giants, Edwin Rios for the Dodgers, who's also had an all right showing for them this year, Jonathan Hernandez for the Rangers, Jared Walsh for the Angels, Josh Stamont for the Royals, and lastly, Abraham Toro for the Astros. Man, there's just a lot of rookies taking part, producing, contributing to their teams. It's been fun, and projecting forward, we're going to have a lot of great rookies going ahead. Baseball feels like it's in a great, great spot. And I love to see it. Awesome stuff. So that's going to be it for this episode on the GSMC Baseball Podcast, the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Collin Manley, giving you episodes on Sundays and Wednesdays. If you have the opportunity, please leave us a positive review. Something you love about the podcast, something that you maybe want us to talk about in the future. Maybe you're hyped for the playoffs just like I am, and you have some ideas, concerns, matchups you want to see. Hey, I'd love to hear it. Anything you can send my way. I want to thank you again for listening, whether it's today, tonight, whenever. It means a great deal. Support the podcast. I'm going to head out here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.